Listen carefully. Most people don't lose control because life is hard. They lose control because someone else learned how to pull their emotions like strings. They react fast. They defend themselves. They explain. They justify. They argue. They think it makes them strong. But every reaction is proof of control. When someone can predict your reaction, they own you. The world doesn't need to break you to control you. It just needs to make you feel. A trigger here, a comment there, a little disrespect, a delayed reply, a moment of being ignored, and instantly your peace is gone. Not because they took it, but because you handed it over. This audiobook is not about being emotionless. It's about becoming untouchable, calm, unreadable, and impossible to manipulate. Because the day you stop reacting like everyone else, you become more powerful than everyone else. So from this moment forward, you do not explain yourself. You do not argue to be understood. You do not give your emotions to people who haven't earned your silence, let alone your reaction. You will feel the trigger rise, but you will not move. You will hear the noise, but you will not answer. You will be tested, but you will not break character. Because this time, you are no longer reacting. You are ascending. Chapter 1. Stop letting people access your emotions for free. Most people are emotionally exhausted, not because life is too heavy, but because they give emotional access to everyone without cost. They respond to every comment. They explain themselves to every critic. They react to every tone shift, every facial expression, every subtle jab that wasn't even worth acknowledging. And slowly, without realizing it, they become emotionally bankrupt, drained, defensive, always on alert. Here is a truth you were never taught. Emotional access is currency. Your attention, your reactions, your emotional energy, these are not free. They are expensive. And yet, you've been handing them out like samples, hoping someone might respect you for it. But no one respects what is given freely. Only what is earned gets protected. Think about how easily people can reach you. A single message can change your mood. A subtle tone from someone can control your whole day. A few words from a stranger can make you rethink your worth. That is not normal. That is emotional slavery. You were trained to believe that being available makes you kind, that reacting shows you care, that explaining shows maturity. But in reality, constant reaction is just unfiltered access to your emotional system. When someone can trigger you quickly, they own a piece of your mind. They might not even know they have it, but your system responds to them like a command. They speak, you react. They disagree, you defend. They withdraw, you chase. You are no longer acting, you are being controlled. This ends when you adopt one rule. Not everyone gets emotional access to me. Someone's mood does not require your adjustment. Someone's provocation does not require your response. Someone's misunderstanding does not require your explanation. You are not obligated to emotionally participate just because you're invited. There is power in withholding reaction. When you do not give emotional access instantly, you force others to reveal their true intent. You create space, and space is where clarity lives. Reaction clouds your perception, but stillness reveals everything. You do not have to respond fast. You do not have to respond emotionally. You do not have to respond at all. From now on, when someone tries to pull a reaction from you, pause, delay, breathe, let. Their words exist without your immediate emotional involvement. Watch what happens. The dynamic shifts. They expected your reaction, and without it, control returns to you. This is not coldness. This is emotional sovereignty. Most people live like open doors. Anyone can walk in, speak, take effect, then leave. You, from this moment forward, there is a gate. There is a cost, and most people will not be able to pay it. You are not here to be emotionally accessible. You are here to be emotionally untouchable. Chapter 2. Silence is how you regain power in any situation. Power is not always loud. In fact, the loudest person is usually the weakest. The one who rushes to reply, to defend, to prove, to correct. That is the person controlled by their emotions. The one who stays silent, measured, unshaken. That is the one who holds the power. You were conditioned to respond immediately, to never leave a message unanswered, to react fast, to fill silence with explanation. But rapid reaction is not strength, it is compliance. It means your emotions are accessible, predictable, easy to trigger. Have you noticed how silence unsettles people? How a lack of reaction forces them to confront themselves? That is not by accident. Silence breaks the rhythm of emotional control. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect a reaction. When someone tries to pressure you, they expect you to fill the silence with justification. When someone says something sharp, they expect you to soften yourself to maintain the peace. But imagine this instead. They speak. They provoke, and you do nothing. No rush, no explanation, no emotional leakage. You hold stillness like a weapon. Silence is not emptiness, it is pressure. It forces the other person to feel their own intention. It makes them reflect on their words. In silence, manipulation loses momentum. Control returns to whoever can remain unmoved. You don't need to argue. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to articulate your truth to be understood. Sometimes, holding your silence is the most dominant statement you can make. Silence creates psychological gravity. It makes people pay attention. The world is addicted to reaction, so when you don't react, you stand out. Your presence becomes heavier. People start choosing their words more carefully around you. They sense they can't just pull emotions out of you at will. Stillness is not weakness, it is contained force. The ocean looks calm until something disturbs its depth. That's what your presence must become. Deep, still, dangerous when needed, but never chaotic. Chaos is for the reactive. Power lives in controlled quiet. From this moment, practice this discipline. When pressure appears, breathe, but don't speak. When words rise in your throat, delay them. When your emotions want to rush out, hold them for one more second. That second builds sovereignty. That pause rewires your emotional system. And slowly, people stop expecting emotional availability from you. They start respecting the silence they cannot break. Silence is not the absence of response. Silence is you choosing when and if your energy is worth releasing. Chapter 3. The One Rule. Never explain yourself defensively. The fastest way to lose power is to start explaining yourself to someone who isn't even trying to understand you. Most people don't ask to understand. They ask to control your emotional state. And the moment you rush to explain, to justify, to be seen correctly, you hand them what they wanted all along, access to your emotions. Here's a truth almost no one realizes. When someone triggers you and you immediately start explaining, you're not clarifying, you're submitting. You think you're being rational, but subconsciously you're saying, "Please understand me so I can feel safe again." And just like that, your emotional stability now depends on their approval. It doesn't matter how calm your tone is. If you are explaining yourself from urgency, from the need to fix how you're being perceived, your energy is already in a lower position. You're reacting. You're chasing clarity from someone who benefits from your confusion. Understand this clearly. When someone respects you, they don't ask you to shrink yourself into explanation. They observe. They listen. They assume dignity in your intent. But when someone repeatedly demands explanations, what they're really doing is testing how fast you'll bend. And if you bend fast, they learn that your emotions can be manipulated through misunderstanding. That's why they say certain things. They know if they imply something about you, you'll rush to correct it. They know if they give you silence, you'll fill it with justification. They know if they express disappointment, you'll scramble to be seen in a better light. That's not communication, that's emotional negotiation. And the only way to win a negotiation like that is to never start it. When someone misunderstands you, let them. When someone twists your words, do not perform an emotional presentation to fix it. When someone tries to reduce you to a reactive state, choose stillness. Your peace does not depend on their clarity. Maturity is accepting that you will be misunderstood and still remaining unbothered. This is how you become emotionally untouchable. You stop trying to manage how others see you. You stop responding to every misinterpretation. You stop explaining yourself to be cleared in their eyes. You let people sit with their assumptions, and you remain in your truth. You do not owe the world emotional access to your internal world. You do not need to narrate your intentions to earn respect. Respect comes from presence, boundaries, and controlled energy, not explanations. Repeat this until your nervous system understands. I do not explain myself to be understood. I remain myself and let understanding come, or not. That is emotional sovereignty. Chapter 4. They want a reaction. Learn to give nothing. Most emotional traps are not designed to hurt you. They are designed to make you react. Because the moment you react, something invisible happens. You step out of control and into the frame set by someone else. A comment, a sigh, a delayed response, a passive-aggressive remark. These are not random. Whether consciously or not, people test your emotional accessibility constantly. They want to know, can I move you? Not move your body, move your mind. The world has trained people to believe that reaction equals connection, that if they can make you feel something, they matter. And many will rather trigger you than be ignored, because to trigger emotion is to prove they still have a place in your mind. The less reactive you become, the more aggressively the world tries to get a rise out of you. Not because you're wrong, but because you've become unavailable. And availability is what emotional manipulators feed on. You must understand this clearly. When someone tries to provoke your emotion, what they actually want is control. They want to see you flinch. They want you to defend yourself. They want you to explain, to clarify, to justify, because every word you speak under emotional pressure tells them how to control you again. Do not give them that blueprint. Here is the discipline. When they push, hold still. When they provoke, observe instead of respond. When they imply, say nothing. When they expect a reaction, give them silence so heavy it makes them confront their own intent. This silence is not passive. It is active emotional warfare. It shifts the frame. Suddenly they're the one exposed. They are the one left waiting. And whether they admit it or not, they will feel your control. You never win by trying harder to prove yourself. You win by refusing to perform for emotional traps. When you stop giving away quick reactions, people change around you. They become more deliberate. They measure their words. They sense your presence cannot be played with. Not because you're aggressive, but because you are unshakable. There is a moment that defines transformation. The moment you feel the trigger rise in your chest. And instead of speaking, you choose stillness. That is when you break the pattern. That is when emotional control begins. And that is when power shifts silently in your favor, without argument, without noise, without effort. From now on, your reaction is earned, never given. Chapter 5. Emotional distance is a weapon. Use it. Closeness makes people believe they have access to your emotions. The more emotionally available you are, the more people assume they can enter your mental space at any moment. They joke, they poke, they test, they provoke, because you allowed them to assume you are open by default. Emotional distance is not coldness. It is controlled access. It is the understanding that not everyone deserves your emotional presence, even if they have physical proximity to you. Just because someone stands near you, speaks to you, knows you, does not mean they get to feel you. There is a dangerous lie the world teaches. Being distant means you are disconnected, but the truth is the opposite. Distance creates respect. When people don't know what affects you, they step more carefully around your energy. When they do know what affects you, they use it. This is why emotional distance is a weapon. It removes the enemy's map. Without knowing your emotional triggers, others cannot navigate inside your mind. They guess, and guessing creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates power in your favor. Most people give emotional access immediately. They laugh too fast, react to every topic, show visible excitement, frustration, irritation at every shift of energy. That is emotional transparency, and emotional transparency is emotional vulnerability. A disciplined person doesn't reveal emotional states unless they decide to, not because they suppress emotion, but because they control the flow of emotional information. Understand this. Stillness doesn't hide your emotions, it protects them. When you hold your emotional energy close, you begin to see more than you express. And in that shift, your perception expands. You start noticing how quickly others give themselves away. Their tone, their tempo, their sudden rush of words, all revealing what controls them internally. Meanwhile, you reveal nothing. That is emotional warfare at its finest. To read and not be read. To observe while remaining unobserved. To feel fully but express selectively. That is not repression. That is strategy. From now on, treat your emotional presence like a rare currency. Give it only where respect is mutual and energy is balanced. Everyone else gets distance, calm, polite, and unreachable. When people say, "You've changed," maybe what they mean is, "I can no longer move you like before." And that is not loss, that is evolution. Chapter 6. Detach from approval, or stay a prisoner. Approval is one of the most addictive emotional drugs and one of the most subtle forms of control. People don't realize this. But the desire to be seen positively by others is one of the main reasons they lose emotional control. Think about it. Why do you explain yourself so quickly? Why do you soften your tone so you don't seem rude? Why do you overgive, overshare, over-justify? Not because you are kind, but because you fear losing approval. Approval is not just validation, it's psychological permission. When you seek it, what you're really saying is, "I need you to approve of me so I can feel safe being myself," which means, without their approval, you are emotionally unsafe. That is not peace, that is prison. And here's the problem. Anyone who knows you want their approval gains emotional leverage over you. They withhold praise, and you work harder. They go cold, and you try to win them back. They express disappointment, and you immediately try to fix their perception. You start adapting emotionally, not because it's right, but because you're scared of losing their positive view of you. This is why approval seeking is emotional slavery disguised as politeness. You're not being nice. You're submitting and disguising that submission as empathy or good communication. Understand something powerful. You do not need to be seen as good, agreeable, or polite to be in control. In fact, the ones with the strongest presence are often misunderstood, and they let it happen. They don't rush to correct every assumption. They don't shapeshift to keep everyone comfortable. They allow tension to exist without emotionally panicking. That is emotional detachment, not coldness, not numbness, just the ability to exist without needing emotional approval to breathe comfortably. From this moment on, remind yourself, I do not live for them to understand me. You do not need the world to like you. You do not need to be read correctly. You do not need softness in response to your strength. Detach from being perceived positively, and your emotional system becomes untouchable. Because the moment you no longer need approval is the moment no one can use it against you. Chapter 7. Learn to watch instead of participate. Most people live in constant participation. They jump into every conversation, react to every shift in mood, involve themselves in every emotional current around them. They don't just observe life, they absorb it. Every tone they detect, every piece of tension they sense, instantly becomes their emotional business. This is why most people feel drained, not because life is hard, but because they insert themselves into everything. There is a higher way to move. Observation without participation. When something happens, a disagreement, a disrespect, a provocation, you do not need to enter it emotionally. You can simply watch. When someone tries to pull you into an emotional reaction, you don't need to reply. You can stand still and observe how badly they need your reaction to feel powerful. When a conversation becomes chaotic, you don't need to speak louder to be heard. You can watch the chaos expose itself. Observation is not passivity. It is strategic distance. There is power in being the one who sees clearly while others are tangled in reaction. Most people don't realize this, but the person who observes longest controls the emotional pace of the room. Those who rush to speak reveal their emotions instantly. Those who rush to defend reveal their fears. Those who rush to argue reveal their insecurity. But the one who waits, the one who watches, they reveal nothing and therefore cannot be controlled. When you observe, you begin to see patterns. You notice how people use tone to fish for reaction. You notice how silence makes them uncomfortable. You notice how emotional traps always follow the same script. Trigger, reaction, loss of power. But when you remove reaction from the equation, everything collapses. The trap fails. The energy returns to you. You no longer exist in their frame. They now exist in yours. This is the shift from being emotionally pulled to being emotionally sovereign. Begin practicing this in small ways. When someone gives you attitude, watch instead of matching it. When someone tries to bait you, observe their neediness without feeding it. When a situation escalates, don't get pulled into the rush. Slow down. Less emotional participation. More controlled observation. This is how you begin to own your emotional world, instead of renting it to every moment. You don't need to be everywhere emotionally. You are not a public resource. You are a sovereign presence. Chapter 8. Control your face. Unreadable energy is power. Your face speaks before your mouth does. Your micro-expressions, the tiny tightening of your jaw, the flicker in your eyes, the shift in your breathing, reveal your emotional state to anyone trained enough to watch. And whether you realize it or not, people around you are constantly reading your emotional access points. When your face reacts quickly, surprise, irritation, excitement, fear, you give away your emotional data for free. That data tells other people, this is how to move you. This is where your emotions bleed. This is where control can enter. Most people don't understand that the face is a dial for emotional control. When someone can see exactly how you feel in real time, they gain leverage. They know when you're uncomfortable. They know when they got to you. They know when you're hiding insecurity. But when your face stays calm, not cold, not aggressive, just unreadable and still, it changes everything. Suddenly no one knows what you're thinking. They don't know if their comment affected you. They don't know if you're impressed, insulted, amused, or indifferent. And uncertainty in others is power in you. This doesn't mean becoming robotic or numb. It means controlling the release of visible emotion. Emotion can exist internally, but expression should remain deliberate, not automatic. This is why warriors, monks, elite strategists, and high performers across history train in facial discipline. Stillness of face, stillness of mind. Stillness of mind, immovable emotional presence. Start paying attention to your expression when people challenge you, someone tries to provoke you, you receive unexpected criticism or disrespect, someone tries to emotionally invade your space with tone or passive aggression. Most people flinch instantly. Their face tightens, their posture shifts, their breathing changes, and in that moment, control is lost. You win when you feel the surge inside, but your face remains still. No eyebrow raise, no smirk, no visible reaction. Neutral face, controlled presence. Not blank from apathy, but blank like a sealed gate. From the outside, it will look like this. They try to shock you, you remain steady. They try to provoke you. You look at them with no emotional giveaway. They try to get a rise out of you, but your stillness makes them feel exposed instead. That is psychological authority. When your face doesn't reveal your emotional state, they start questioning their own. Chapter 9. When they push, stand still, don't prove. When people push you, with tone, with silence, with challenge, the instinct is to prove yourself, to prove you're right, to prove you're strong, to prove you're unaffected. But proving is just another form of reacting. And reaction always lowers your position. The moment you feel the need to prove, you've already accepted their frame. You're no longer standing in your own ground. You're performing inside their emotional arena, playing by their rules, responding to their cues. And worst of all, you've given them the satisfaction of knowing they moved you. Understand this deeply. Anytime someone can make you explain, defend, or prove yourself, they own the frame. They challenge you, and you respond. They accuse you, and you clarify. They doubt you and you try to convince them. You might think you're being strong by asserting yourself, but from a psychological angle, you are simply reacting to their pressure. True emotional power is the ability to remain still when pushed. They ask a loaded question, you don't dance for it. They imply something about you. You don't rush to fix the narrative. They go silent to provoke a response. You let silence breathe without chasing it. It feels unnatural at first. Your nervous system will want to close the tension, fill the gap, reassert yourself. That is the trap. Tension is where emotional leverage is created. The one who breaks first loses. So here is the discipline. When someone challenges your character, do not defend it. When someone tries to stir your emotion, do not spill it to prove you're calm. When someone withdraws affection, attention, or approval to provoke a reaction, stay unmoved. Not cold, not ego-driven, just sovereign. You are not here to prove. You are here to be. And being requires no explanation. Most people don't understand this level of emotional control. They will call it ego. They will call it stubbornness. But the truth is simple. When someone tries to pull you out of your position and you don't move, you become untouchable. Let them push. Let them test. Let them wait for your reaction. You do not move, because power isn't shown by how hard you hit back. It's shown by whether you needed to respond at all. Chapter 10. Emotionally untouchable, the state they can't reach anymore. There comes a moment in this path where something changes, not in how you act, but in what you no longer feel compelled to respond to. The things that used to pull you no longer move you. The bait that once hooked your emotions now passes in front of you like wind, seen, but not entered. You begin to notice something. Their tactics stay the same, but you don't. They still drop comments to provoke. They still change tone to destabilize you. They still go silent, waiting for you to panic and respond. But instead of reacting, instead of chasing clarity or validation, you remain still, unaffected, present, sovereign. This is what it means to become emotionally untouchable. Not that emotions don't exist, but that your emotions no longer belong to the outside world. They rise within you, but you hold them like a master holds a blade, controlled, deliberate, and never for show. You no longer give emotional feedback just because someone reached for it. You no longer drain your energy, explaining what you meant to those committed to, misunderstanding you. You no longer feel the urge to fix every distortion of your name, your tone, your character. You let people have their version, and you keep your truth. This kind of presence is rare. It feels heavy, not because it's aggressive, but because it wastes nothing. No unnecessary speech, no uncontrollable reaction, no scattered emotional leaks. You speak when you choose to speak. You care when you choose to care. You engage only when energy is respected. Everything else receives stillness. To the world, this looks like coldness. They will call you distant, detached, changed. But the truth is, you simply stopped giving free access to a place that was never meant to be public. Your emotional world is now a gated fortress, guarded not by aggression, but by unshakable calm. And those who once fed on your reactions will feel it, like tapping on glass and hearing nothing echo back. This is not suppression. This is possession of self. You are no longer waiting to feel in control. You are in control, quietly, consistently, effortlessly. And from this point on, life changes. People behave differently around you. They feel the boundary without you announcing it. They sense your presence is not open territory. They know they cannot reach you like before. Most people spend their lives emotionally exposed. You will not. You are no longer reacting. You are watching. You are no longer proving. You are holding. You are no longer seeking to be understood. You are becoming unreachable. This is the state of emotional sovereignty. This is your new baseline. You are emotionally untouchable. You felt the shift. Somewhere in these words, something inside you changed. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet decision. You will not be emotionally reachable like before. From now on, your peace is not public property. Your reactions are not free to take. Your energy is no longer something the world can summon on command. You do not chase understanding. You do not rush to clarify. You do not perform emotion just to prove you have it. You have become something rare, someone who still feels deeply, but responds selectively, someone who doesn't shut down, but refuses to be pulled. This world rewards reactivity, but it bows to emotional sovereignty. So when the moment comes, when someone tries to provoke, when tension rises, when your old patterns beg you to react, remember this: stillness is your power. Reaction is their hope. Give them nothing. You heard this for a reason. Something in you is done living with emotional leaks. If you're claiming that transformation fully, mark it. Declare it. Not for me, not for the algorithm, for your own nervous system. Comment and seal it with these words: my emotions belong to me now, not to triggers, not to people, not to past habits, to you, only you. This is not the end. This is your entry into a new way of moving through the world. Calm, unreadable, untouchable.